as we know, there have been numerous UN General Assembly as well as UN Security Council resolutions which have condemned as illegal the continued establishment of Jewish settlements in the occupied territories. I mean, we are aware of the various resolutions. Yet, for some reason, Israel continues with its settlements program, even during the interim years of the Oslo Accords. In 1993, there were 110,000 Jewish settlers. And in 2018, the number increased to 440,000 in the West Bank alone. The question is why? Why is this happening? Why is it so difficult for Israel to pull out the Jewish settlements from the occupied territories, even though it has been multiple resolutions have been passed? Various U.S. administrations, the presidents have actually said, no, you need to pull out, yet it is not happening. Is there a logistical issue? Is there some issue that's preventing this from happening? Perhaps this, Paul, you could respond to this.
Hi, Viswa, thanks. So, I have to correct you here. There are zero legally binding international resolutions saying what you've just said. Not one. The General Assembly of the United Nations, by its own constitution, has no legally binding decision-making authority. The only institution of the United Nations which does have is the Security Council, and they have never said anything of the sort. The only organization which has intimated in the direction that you're talking about is the International Court of Justice, which has not ruled on it. It has just said that this is a possibility. So first of all, to correct you there wasn't a legally binding decision saying that this is the case. There is many people who have that opinion, and that opinion is a legitimate opinion, but there are also many and the second thing is that when you talk about the West Bank as occupied territory, you are deciding in advance the outcome of the negotiation. Now, in a way, I suppose that would make you not an honest broker, and we wouldn't be very wise, neither of us, Palestinian or Israeli, to turn to you as our mediator. If you want to be an honest broker, if you talk about a moderator, it needs to be a party which does not come in with preconceived ideas. You must understand, the Arab is a colonialist in this part of the world. The Arab comes from the Hejaz region. By the time the Arab migrated up into this part of the world, the Jews had already been kicked into exile by the Romans. So both parties have legitimate claims. But when I say both parties have legitimate claims, that's both of us, not only the Palestinians. So the final thing I'll just say is that it's absolutely true that the number of people, Israelis, living in Israeli villages in the West Bank has gone from 0, actually, to 500,000 or whatever the number is. But the truth of the matter is that we're talking about settlements which are sitting on 1% of the real estate of the West Bank, and that number has not grown in the last 20 years. If Israel is on a massive campaign to put people to take real estate as opposed to moving individuals, then we're not very good at it if we're only on 2.5% of the West Bank. So I think that it's important to keep a focus on the facts. There are two peoples with both of whom having legitimate claims. We're fully aware of the fact that we're going to get the rough end of the deal with somewhere between 0 and 5%, and they are going to get somewhere between 93, 94, and 100% when the resolution is reached. Okay, but if we're going to ever reach a resolution, we have to be honest about the facts.
Yeah. So, Paul, I appreciate what you just said. According to my research, in December of 2016, there was a UN Security Council resolution to end
234.
Yes, to end Israeli settlements, and the exact wording, to quote, is no legal validity and constitutes a flagrant violation under international law. And this, if I'm reminded, was the first time that the USA abstained. So the vote was 14 to 0. Am I correct?
I have to say that at the time I was the Israeli ambassador to Senegal, which is the party that submitted that resolution to the United Nations Security Council, and that resolution does not say that. I was deeply involved in that. Senegal submitted that resolution. But you are correct.
Was it passed? Was it passed?
Yes, it was. But it had no comment on the legality of the Israeli presence in the West Bank.
So what
was
it talked about,
that resolution 2334 was primarily, not exclusively, primarily about the establishment of a blacklist of companies that are doing business, which took many years since then. And recently in Geneva, the United Nations did actually publish that blacklist, which, by the way, I think is the antithesis of conflict resolution. But nonetheless, that's what it was about. I know that many people, very many people, including in Israel, think that the Israeli presence in the West Bank is illegal. But many people don't think this. And it has not been ruled on in international law. And maybe if it were to be ruled on international law, then that's what the conclusion would be. I don't know. But at this point in time, this is simply not factually true.
Well, okay, let's agree to disagree, because I've got fairly strong facts that gave me the information that I just shared. But let's not dispute on that. Let's just agree to disagree on that.
Unless we bring this on a different track, we're going to end up again repeating the past and what we have to say against each other. So my suggestion is very simple. If you want to move ahead, think of incentives and disincentives. Think of positives and priorities. Start with humanitarian aid now. Start with a ceasefire now. Start with, no hostilities by Hamas. Step 1. Step 2, move on to create positive incentives for economic development. Create a global fund for a future Palestinian state. Pledge humanitarian aid. Offer diplomatic recognition of the Arab states to Israel and most favored nation status. Give each of these tangible benefits to ending the war. There is step 2. Step 3, after you've achieved concrete progress with these two and achieved stability on the ground, a certain sense of trust, and built up people-to-people contact with social and cultural exchange and local trade, then move on to the bigger issues of the border, of the displaced people that we need to tackle. Unless we do this through mediation, because it's only through mediation that people will get a better understanding of each other's perspectives, work out out-of-the-box solutions, and most importantly, keep at it. Only in that process will things move. And even on the emotive issue of Jerusalem, you have religious influences from all three Abrahamic religions with impeccable credentials. They can work out a way to resolve these things. That shouldn't be the most difficult thing in the world. Other countries have done it. So I think we have to, shift the focus. It has to move from the past and from the present to the future.
This is probably the best way to end the discussion. And Sriram, I think that the key point that comes through in what you just said is we need to reframe. We need to reframe the modality and the way we look at the issue. We have to look at a ceasefire. We need to stop the violence and aggression while we are negotiating. That's number one. Number two, you're talking about also taking care of the humanitarian aspects, which seems to have been put on the back burners for some time. So that is also very important. So we shouldn't just be looking at religion, politics and these big issues, we should also look at the basic issues that people actually, that matter to people.